So obviously for CLMVT, there is a lot of opportunity, and you've also heard in the conference today. Obviously there is also a lot of challenges. Of course we see more opportunity than challenges. One of the key areas for us is the transparency regulations across the CLMVT. We see a lot of improvement, and we are very encouraged by the improvement, but of course there is more that can be done for CLMVT, including the investment regulations, customs clearance regulations, trade regulations, and so on and so forth. So there is some changes, there are some reforms that we see ongoing in CLMVT, but we think that of course more can be done. For Thailand and the aspect of regulations, well, if you're looking at Thailand as a hub for CLMVT, obviously Thailand already exists as a hub currently, right? If I'm looking at it from a logistics, from a connectivity perspective, Thailand is already has some place a logistics hub role for CLMVT. Now, what can Thailand do more? One big area that Thailand can easily address now is to allow for the transit movement of goods from Thailand into the CLMV countries. There is an existing agreement in ASEAN called the ASEAN Framework Agreement on Goods in Transit. However, that agreement has been 20 years in discussion, but nothing has moved. And we encourage actually ASEAN countries to look at setting up this transit system that allows shipments and goods that are coming from Thailand or through Thailand into the CLMVT countries. That's one big area that I think Thailand can look at. The other thing is, as what Kun Chutima mentioned, is all these soft regulations, road transportation regulations that could be enhanced. For example, the ability to use the same truck as we go from one road in one country to another country and not having to change trucks with different registration, right? The third area I would think that is possible if you want Thailand to be a hub. One big, I think, area that could be looked at is whether we can mix goods that are in transit as well as Thai originating goods into the same truck. At the moment you can't, so you have to split different trucks for transit trucks and for those that are for picked up from Thai origin, and that causes a lot of inefficiency in logistics, right? If Thailand wants to be a hub, they should allow for these mixing of goods in the same truck, because then you will maximize capacity, you can maximize the efficiency, and keep the cost of logistics competitive. So that's more on the road side. On the air side, I think Thailand at Suvarnabhumi already has a lot of commercial airline linkages with the CLMV countries. Obviously, in order to retain that, the air services agreements with Thailand negotiates with these countries should be enhanced. More slots, more airlines, because you want to create more connectivity, right? More transport critical mass. That will allow Suvarnabhumi to continue to be the hub, transport hub from an air perspective with these countries. Now, we are seeing some pressure on Suvarnabhumi at the moment because it's almost reaching full capacity. So maybe one other aspect which I will talk about also in my presentation later is whether they can de-stress some of the pressure on Suvarnabhumi by moving some of the less time-sensitive shipments into road and rail, and then to allow the more time-sensitive shipments. You know, air cargo usually is very time-sensitive, right? Well, 1 day or 2 day transit time, so that you continue to allow Suvarnabhumi and not to overstress the infrastructure in Suvarnabhumi. So for DHL Express, we have been in CLMVT for many, many years. For example, in Thailand, we are 47 years. In Cambodia, we've been there for 27 years. In Myanmar, also about 27 years. So we have been in CLMVT for many years, so we know how the market operates. We know the local conditions in the market. But what we also do is we help companies, SMEs in CLMV to also reach the world, right? So how do they access the global market? So for DHL Express, not only are we active in CLMVT, we also have a global network covering over 220 countries. Now, we put in about roughly 88 flights a week going into CLMVT. So that level of connection that will allow companies next day or 2 day delivery to markets like the US or EU is a very significant, and one day for Asia, right? The transit time we keep the supply chain for these CLMVT countries very efficient and very fast, so they get access to the markets in the key markets of the world. It depends on if our customers need it, for sure, right? There is a challenge, I think, as you see Vietnam's volumes increasing. There is a challenge of whether you put those volumes of flights and shipments via Bangkok, or you do it direct from Vietnam to, for example, the other hubs of Asia in Hong Kong or in Singapore, right? So that's why I say for Thailand to remain the hub of Asia, you guys have to find ways to distress Suvarnabhumi, increase the slots through your negotiations with the service agreements with these countries, and at the same time allow for more airlines to operate so you have more critical mass, right? So that from a business perspective, obviously for DHL, we have been looking at investing in CLMVT, and there are certainly opportunities for that. And as and when those opportunities come, we will definitely continue to invest in these countries, as we have done in many, many other countries. So the connectivity that I mentioned, I think I answered some of that earlier, right? In terms of road and air, right? But I think a bigger aspect, besides the infrastructure, this is more at the back end, is how can MSMEs, micro, small and medium enterprises in CLMV, how can they be connected to the world? I think that is a very good and interesting question, because we see many, many opportunities globally for MSMEs to access the global market through the e-commerce platform and e-commerce channels, right? We see the global e-commerce online market cross-border going to about $1 trillion US. We see significant growth in ASEAN, significant growth in the US, EU and Asia, right? So there is a lot of opportunity for MSMEs in CLMV to connect to the world and to use companies like us that have this global network to allow them access to the global market. There are a lot of examples in Thailand that we have MSMEs who have managed to do that and grown their businesses as a result of that. So that's another area, I think, you talk about connecting.